Okay, good morning. This is the first session of what I would call book club. So I want to, at the beginning, make it absolutely clear this has nothing to do with University of Houston, and I am no longer teaching there. This is just a kind of like a between friends, acquaintances, and the people who are looking for something in their life that they want to make the more sense out of their life and to live their life happier. So this book club is kind of special in a sense that it's not like we read this book and read that book and then we exchange our how we think about the book. It is exactly that, except for it's not going to be like a one book we flip the pages and we're like, oh, this author or that story or the character. No. Um, the books that we will go most likely at a very long time, uh, probably 100 or more sessions, each probably around 10 minutes ago, because when it gets too long, nobody has the patience to listen. So this is really just for me to share with how I feel about reading some of the sentences out of the same book, and to see if that helps other people, the audience of this video, to make sense out of their life. And so before we start, first I want to talk about the book that I personally picked. The book is in Chinese called Dao De Jing, and there is no English translation for these three Chinese characters. But if you do want to translate virtually, if you have to, it's uh, I would translate as the book of virtues. So it's kind of confusing. The book about virtues. What virtues, right? But I guess that's just the ancient Chinese, and of course the context back then is totally different from today. But if you try to translate from the contemporary Chinese or with the contemporary Chinese to translate those three Chinese characters, that's how would you, at least how I arrived at. But it's not really about that. Um, this Dao De Jing, which if you spell alphabetically would be Dao. That's the first, the Dao. That's how to pronounce the first character, and the second Chinese character is De. So Chinese pronounces De, and then Jing is Jing, right? So which is basically means like the laws, the truths, or the Bible, or basically the book of the old books. That Jing is that. The reason I picked this book because I personally believe this is basically teaching people to look at the universe from very, very high uh, level or position. So get the view, you look down, you got a much bigger view. So basically, it helps you to arrive at a certain level philosophically, so you don't get stuck with the things that confuse you every day. You begin to get a new perspective and see if things can make sense for you, with this new angle to observe the world around you. So that's why I picked this book. This book is freely available. If you go online and look for it, once again, three Chinese characters. Uh, it's Dao De Jing, DaoDejing. You can find the free PDF and download, and then we can go from there. So The first session we open today, we will not talk about the book itself until you get it downloaded. Once again, Dao De Jing, Dao De Jing. I'm going to talk about this book probably character by character, not even like a page by page, because it's a very short book. I believe 5,000 Chinese characters. And my personal experience, if you really figure out the first 6 Chinese characters, you can actually make your life a lot more enjoyable already. You will be happier. So we're gonna take time there. We're actually going to go like a character by character to compare. And of course, we all have our own life experience that's different, from one another. And I have mine. I guess for quite some of you, my life experience is a little more comparing to others. And the reason I can make a lot more sense out of this is because I guess I have a little more life experiences. And I was born and raised in a family at the time was the wrong family at the wrong place, because it was in the hardcore communist time, and the family background that I came from was considered the public enemy in the class struggle time. So I grew up with all this political discrimination and suppression. I was not happy. I actually, in my mind, I already blocked all my memory of childhood. I don't remember, if anything, from my childhood, because nothing was happy. And then I never really had any formal education until I went to the Maritime Academy. It's kind of funny. A lot of people don't get that. Come to think of it, I thought it was interesting too. So before I went to the college or Maritime Academy, I did lots of reading on my own, which today I think it was so good. I'd rather what I had than comparing to going into the school today in China. I guess I structured my knowledge randomly, but I kind of appreciate what I have and how I got it. So in that sense, I believe I am more traditional in a sense, going back to 1,000 years of China than most of the Chinese growing up in China today. So I want to first talk about what is China before we end this first session. China is not referring to a legal or political state or state of insovereignty or some political power, legal entity located at the traditional region where old China was. It didn't mean that. So that's why in the English term, Chinaman today sound like a negative word for Chinese, some kind of racial discrimination. But if you believe so, then you didn't know the history, or you still don't know the history. The same word actually was created in Japan too, where a lot of overseas Chinese call themselves in Japanese Shinajin. Shinajin is exactly English Chinaman. So you would think, oh, this is because the old Chinese, when they arrived there, those laborers, hard laborers, they were Chinese illiterate. So they don't, they're Chinese so bad, and think about their English, so they don't know how to say Chinese. They say Chinaman, right? No. The reason this Chinaman was invented was because there are certain Han Chinese, which is a majority ethnically in China, want to differentiate themselves from the Manchurian Empire citizens. Okay, those were called Chinese, and they want to differentiate themselves to call themselves Chinaman, like they're really representing China, even though They don't want to be the citizen of Manchurian Empire. So why? I bet you ask a lot of Chinese, they don't know why today. So this is what I'm going to share in this first session. China was originally a concept of the center or the core of a civilization. It was meant to be a word interchangeable with the word capital. Okay? So when you are at the center or the capital of a kingdom, where it's entirely culturally a civilization pretty much, on the foundation of three cultural pillars, literally meaning these three: Confucianism, Taoism, and then Zen from the Buddhism. So this was the value of the civilization, and the core of this civilization was China. If you translate from the two original Chinese character, the British got it wrong. They translate into the central, the Middle Kingdom. But my translation would not be Middle Kingdom. I would call it the center of the nation. So it's not a state of sovereignty. It's a nation. It's a nation based on the three core cultural pillars or core values. Again, the Confucianism, the Taoism, and the Buddhism, with the focus on Zen. So, so you may not find this believable, but that's exactly what we today in America is. What do you think USA is? Is it some kind of legal entity, political power, or a state of sovereignty? Yes, it is the combination of all above, but it's more of, actually, I believe, a civilization. What kind of civilization? We have our core values. Believe it or not, if you travel far enough, around the world, and you come back, you get to compare, you will be surprised that United States against all other English-speaking countries, we are so different in many ways, which I'll explore later in the later sessions. So we believe our values. Do we export our values? Yes, we do. Okay. What's our most powerful weapon of that? It's not actually our military might. It is our petrodollar, along with other economical means. So we believe here what the capitalism should be, and we also believe what democracy should be, and we practice the same way. And of course, we believe we want to help other countries, people out there. Obviously, this doesn't really go outside our border, that well, because you look at Mexico, you look at Canada, let alone France, Germany, even England, they all have different systems, different beliefs. But we still try to export, don't we? And also, of course, our economy is all based on the global economy. People buy our US dollar and invest in our nation. So, yeah, we do, okay? But did the Chinese from the old China export? Not really. Not really. But does it make any difference? I'm going to say something here. It's not politically correct, but that's why I mentioned at the beginning, this is not sanctioned by the University of Houston, so it's not politically correct. It's all on me, okay? All on me. Sue me, okay? Like you have anything to sue me for. I ain't got nothing. So what does this typical Chinese civilization differentiate, or where does it differentiate from the other Asian cultures? Because today, when you sit in America, you are like, oh, Asians. We're not all the same, okay? When I say we, because I believe I am a Chinaman, okay? I'm not a Chinese citizen of the People's Republic of China, but I am a Chinaman because I do value recognize those three cultural pillars. So, like I said in the beginning, I don't believe it's some legal entity thing or a state of sovereignty. The China, in my mind, is civilization. So that's why I use the word we. We're different. Okay. So when you look at Thailand or even Cambodia, those Asian countries, they're also Buddhism, as the main, I guess, religion, right? Uh, but there the Buddhism came from India directly. And then you look at the states in Japan, Vietnam, Korea. These were the countries that absorbed the civilization, the core value. And what is the difference? Because the Buddhism, and that comes with the Zen too. Buddhism had all different kind of schools, branches, and theories, just like in Western religion. Same thing. They have their differences. I'm gonna leave that out. But it stayed in China and localized and mixed up with Confucianism. And I will, in the next session, I'll talk about Confucianism. Okay, but this Confucianism is the driver, okay, to make people, have a little more like specific goals to achieve this and that, achieve this and that. And that's the Confucianism, blend in. And then basically it went to Korea, what is Korea today and what is Vietnam today, right? So Japan, in the meantime, was never part of the Chinese system, but they imported on their own, on the volunteer basis. But of course, it took a spin and went a very interestingly different way. For instance, Confucianism actually promote the civilization, so the military force, the military might, never took the center stage in the Confucius beliefs, in Confucius teaching. But when it went to Japan, the time was when the Japanese shoguns were in shogun, the generals, they were in charge. So what they found useful from the Confucianism was the absolute loyalty, obey, obey, and obey. So they took a spin. So what is known as Bushido today, which is basically the warriors, belief, okay? Bushido actually came out of Confucianism. So this might be a shock to Chinese if you tell them, oh, Bushido was actually Confucianism, or at least came from there as the origin. So I'm just telling you that it's different, it's the same, but if you compare Japan, Korea, Vietnam, and China, let's say pick a country, Indonesia or Malaysia. These two countries, they're also Asian countries, but their cultural belief, the religion is pretty much Muslim, okay? And then you have the Philippines, a Catholic, dominantly Catholic, at least for a while, right? Because the Spanish occupied that place for a while before the American took over as after the Spanish War. And then you have the Thailand, Cambodia. They all, very different from one another. And I'll talk about it later. And if you want to label me someone with an agenda, well, I'm going to tell you, you can label me whatever you want. I don't have an agenda. This is just a pure knowledge on it. I'm not promoting any agenda, okay? So, and hey, this is like if you're interested, you tune in. If you're not, you're not, okay? So I'm going to wrap up here for the first session. So please go look up and download the PDF, free literature under Dao De Jing, DaoDejing. So if you have question, you know where to or how to contact me by email or text message, and I'll help you out. I'll probably just forward one copy to you. If you would like to spread the words around and see if this could help other people, feel free to do so. Of course, today we haven't really got to the core part of it, but we will once everybody has that literature free copy available at hand. Then we get into it. You are not necessarily required to read Chinese, because I will talk everything in Chinese. I mean, sorry, in English. So it's okay if you're Chinese illiterate. That's fine. A lot of Chinese were illiterate back then, and it didn't bother them. Okay, so I'll see you next session.